That you can just minimize this. That's see that red button. That's already
because it's still 10 users. So I'm not looking for an answer back from this computer.
Okay, cool. Yep.
Yes, you can keep this going. Eventually you might break it up. You can keep this going and at the very end. It will stop streaming at the very end of it. But you can keep it. It's easier. Okay.
Brian said that it is possible about the
Yeah, as long as you use that broadcast.
He said, but I don't think so. If it were a leaky pipe or drain, I should think it would leak every time it rained hard. This only leaks when we get 3 to 4 inches of rain in a very short period of time. I'd be more than happy to talk with Bob about this issue when he has a moment to get his
Morris. So we're starting out the ball game this morning in about 30 minutes.
Yes.
How excited is that?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm actually here on time, I guess, huh?
But when we do get a rain, I wasn't good at comment. How about we do this?
Although I did sleep later than I planned on more remarks.
How are you?
Good, how are you? I woke up at 3:30 for some reason and just couldn't go back to sleep until about 6:30. I just thought, Tracy, I slept a little, so I was planning on getting up like 7.
Melanie.
Up at 4 and my legs muscles were starting to kick in.
Oh?
It's painful. And you don't even just get up and walk and take a couple ibuprofen.
Yeah.
That kind of settled me back down. I slept good till 7.
I just wondered if I could email
Is that
from her.
like they're cramping up?
That's good for you.
Oh. Yeah. Oh.
You don't want that too much. If it gets real bad, you have to go to the freezer and have the ice packs.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad this time. I caught it.
I've had that before too.
All but put tears in.
Yeah.
You know, when they're really bad. Hey, how are you? So.
Thank you.
Or Greg.
Phil, Jim's not here today.
Pardon?
Jim's not here today, so we got lots of room. So we can spread out.
They need help spread now.
With that calendar, I really need to take a week off. I want to get up to Mackinac, Sault Ste. Marie.
Yeah, summer's gonna be over before we know it.
We're in meetings and township meetings, which I don't have to be there.
Yeah.
October 1 to October 9.
Yeah.
That's it. I'll be there.
They had a good group this summer. They were
So proud of them. Yeah.
How are you?
Enjoy.
Morning.
I guess it's me, huh? Are we ready to go?
Are you ready? Yes.
Okay. All right. Good morning. I'd like to call to order the Planning and Environmental Services Committee meeting. Can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Hardy.
Here.
Ms. Matt.
Here.
Mr. Erickson.
Yes.
Mr. Christian.
Yes, here.
Mr. Morse.
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Here, thank you.
Can I entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the June 23rd meeting?
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes from June 23. Christians?
Thank you, Mr. Christians. Do we have a second?
Support Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Any conversation about it? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. Motion carries. Do we have any recommended changes to the agenda? Being none, can I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as written?
I'll make that motion, Hardy.
Thanks, Mr. Hardy.
Support Christians.
Thanks, Mr. Christians. Any conversation? All in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed, say the same. Motion carries. Time for public comment. Being none, we'll get right on to the first agenda item, which is the stormwater design criteria update. I'll invite Ms. Drain Commissioner Martin to the podium.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So back in 2018, this update was started, and it was budgeted and paid for in 2019. There were a couple of questions about some calculations, and then the pandemic happened, so this is why I'm finally here. Because these updates were thoroughly went over again, and other counties have adopted them, and they're supposed to be a lot easier for developers to understand. There's been an update in best management practices. The forms have been updated to make it simpler, so I am requesting that you approve the updated stormwater design criteria. Does anybody have any questions?
Michelle, we talked a little bit about whether this applied to residential versus commercial. Can you define that a little bit more for us, please?
Sure, it's for industrial sites, multi-housing residential, and commercial sites. So anywhere, all the dollar stores have used this. They were using the 2004 version up until whenever, if you decide to adopt this today, then it would start with this new criteria, and they are using Atlas 14 in this as opposed to the previous, which I think Paul from Spicer was mentioning that when he gave the dam.
Okay. So when you take like a box store like a Home Depot or a Walmart, I was looking in the pamphlet, in the booklet, about the change from one of where you've got lots and lots of asphalt. So we're saying we can propose the same amount of parking spaces, but we're channeling the runoff of the water to stay basically on site.
Correct. That's usually retention or detention ponds and things like that. There's always different variables, soil types and things like that, so this is just an aid into helping them with the calculations and how they have to design those systems to keep the water on site, or sometimes it does have to go off site, like the dollar store here on Polk Road. Most of their stuff, because of the site itself, that water is going down the ditch and into the Golden Drain. So, but it's filtered first, so it just depends on the site.
A lot of clay there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of clay.
Any other questions for Ms. Martin? All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, Administrator Biard, you have consideration for a resolution?
Yes, I do. This is a resolution for a grant opportunity, Resilient Lakeshore Heritage Grant. We are asking that the board approve this so that we can apply for $78,414 toward upgrades to the courthouse and grounds. It would be LED lighting in the courthouse grounds, picnic tables, trash receptacles, some mini splits for the HVAC throughout the hallways, and some keyless entries for some of the office doors. So, and then there is a 10% match, but we can get the 10% match through in-kind, if that's possible. So I'm just asking that you allow us to apply for that.
Does like doing the carpet here that we already paid for, would that apply or count for in-kind, or does it have to be directly connected with?
It has to be directly connected to what these projects are.
Okay. Any questions?
Are there public restrooms that would be listed on there and maybe applicable to our county courthouse building? Of seeing more maybe restrooms, or those that are more specific for male versus female and the other way around?
You mean adding to the courthouse? That's something that we could do.
Okay.
We haven't applied for the loan, or for the grant yet, so, the possibilities are endless, but a lot of it, I've put some of that paperwork in here, but you can see it's due to the fact that, it's through the Lakeshore Heritage, grant is what this is for, and they're looking for us to do upgrades to the building.
Okay, okay.
Because it is a historical building in this area.
Anything else?
Yeah, one, I'm sure.
Would those upgrades be limited to the county office facility itself and not the jail? I think at this time we need to be careful doing any upgrades with grants for the jail.
Yeah.
When we're looking at the millage there, because there may be some strings attached to it if we go for another millage.
Yeah, so I'm just asking this specifically for the courthouse.
Okay, thank you.
My understanding too is 50% of the work has to be completed before funds are allocated.
Yes.
So that would be funded out of the general until, okay.
Or the public building and improvement fund, we could do it out of that, out of the building improvement.
The deadline for your submission is something like September 1?
September 1.
Comes
But,
up
and the
quick.
reason that we haven't brought this to you before
Uh-huh.
is that Brian's been gathering quotes for me to see approximately how much of that could be spent.
Any other questions for Ms. Biard? All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is a strategic planning goals review. So one thing that I'd like to do every time we have the planning committee meeting is to address, or at least briefly discuss, if not discuss in a long way, one of our goals, so that we don't, have the strategic plan and then never really do anything with it. And so please let me know if there's something, a certain goal. We have the 5 goals. If there's a certain goal that you'd like to address at, at the September meeting, October meeting, or whatever the month is, let me know, and then we can talk about it. Today, I would like to talk about goal number 4, I believe it is. It's the one essentially where we're, let me get down to it. I should have had it ready. So it's actually goal number 4, yeah. So to strengthen relationships with stakeholders and build trust in government. And so I have an idea now, so I don't miss out on anything. I'm gonna just read my notes here. So after going door to door in my 2 townships that I was running for re-election in, it became evident to me that a number of people have no idea who their county commissioner is, or even what the county board does. And these are the more usually primary voters are more, the informed type. So in some instances, it may be because we could communicate better. In some instances, the community member doesn't really seek information. In some cases, it's because they don't have access to the information. So it's probably a combination of reasons in many cases. So in order to address goal number 4, this is a perfect example of why we have it as a goal. So we've already talked about having a quarterly newsletter at a county board government newsletter, and I would like to propose a strategy for that. And so the strategy is to email that quarterly newsletter out to everyone that's on the email list, to email it out, but also consider once a year having a hard snail-mailed copy. In the newsletter, I propose that we highlight department heads and departments, highlight the board itself, that's us, our decisions, and the things with which we grapple. It's aesthetically pleasing. We have like 10 or so snapshot stories, maybe like a headline, and then maybe like a sentence or 2 with whatever the topic is, but then a link to be able to go to a more lengthy description of the story. Because, something that's really long and wordy, people are going to look at it and be like, yeah, forget it, I'm not reading this. It's, you know, too many people, you know, they'll do that. So if we have these snapshots, like you guys probably are involved in getting newsletters that's like that too. It's just a headline and then a couple sentences, and then they can decide whether or not they want to read on. So that's how I envision it being for us as well. In nuances in the communicating, I think we should have the newsletter come from whoever the constituents county commissioner is. So we actually, so those that live in Hart, the city of Hart Township and Elbridge, I think you're Elbridge too, right, Craig?
Yeah, well, January.
Yeah, right. Would actually have like Craig be the first thing they see is maybe a little picture of Craig, and then a little introduction. Hey, I'm your county commissioner. Just want to introduce to you this newsletter, and then he can put his own little nuances. But then the rest of it is the same. So that's where we need to gather some information about people that live in which township connected to which email addresses. So that way they know exactly who their county commissioner is and who they should talk to if something comes up. As far as collecting email addresses, I suggest that we add in the budget for the 23 fiscal year little postcards like this size, and that we actually email or we mail out to everybody that's on our mailing address that we could find in the whole county. And then we have a little QR code or a little email or a little URL there for a sign-up sheet, or for a sign-up where they can actually sign up. They put in their name, they put in their email address, and then they put in their township, their mailing address, and then they can sign up to receive the newsletters. We also have on there that they can receive if they want to fill out surveys, so for example the Parks and Rec survey that's going on right now, the hazard mitigation survey, any survey like the EDA survey that's coming up from us, and then so they could actually then get the surveys emailed to them. So my guess is that a number of participants that will actually click on it, take a picture with their phone and actually subscribe is about 5%. That's still 5% of the people that will actually sign up for them if they get a mail to them. It's still 1,000 or so people on the email list, which would be really helpful. We really have talked about how much we need that. And then one more step that can be an option for us is each of us as commissioners, we have these cards that we have printed off for us. And the postcards, same sort of thing, but those we actually hand out. So we have a picture on, it's kind of like a business card in a way, with our contact information, our picture, a link to that newsletter sign up, and then we hand them out to people at whatever events we're at, or you can go to door to door, however we want to handle that. And that way people can have access to us. They have a business card right there, but also then encourage them to sign up for the email list. Then my guess is then the rate would be even higher, where people would actually, if they see us face to face and we ask them to actually sign up for it ourselves, I can see that the rate of signing up would be even higher. So the benefits of this is just like our goal is, this will build transparency. It can open up lines of communication with our constituents. It will also help us to be able to gain feedback, like I said, for things like surveys and so forth. So what it's going to take from us, it's going to take some effort, particularly on Administrator Byard's part, to have her staff get together the information, or the cards themselves, and then the newsletters. So we'll have to help with that as far as financial resources, and that's the other thing is financial resources. We're going to have to budget, like I said, in the 23 FY budget to be able to do this. What's your thoughts? Yes, Ms. Maya.
I have a couple of thoughts. Number one, I think we may, if we were to segregate the newsletter as to the commissioner, and it's publicly funded, that may run into campaign financing restrictions. We'd have to be very careful not to violate any of them.
Absolutely, I agree. I know it won't. If it has nothing to do with vote for me, and you know, with none of that type of verbiage, just hey, this is Craig Hardy, this is Phil Moore, and then hey, so glad to represent you on the county board. We work our tails off to make sure, blah blah blah, whatever, and that's it. That is, I mean, Senator Bumstead has those cards that go out all the time that come from his office, and they're not campaign pieces. He has a budget for that.
Yep.
So I'm 99% certain, and we could clarify that with the lawyer too if we need to, if that would make people feel better. But I'm 99% certain that that's not going to be breaching any campaign finance laws.
My second comment is that sometimes government makes it too easy for citizens, and I'm not saying this is one of those times, but there are times that citizens have to put forth an effort also.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of the newsletter. I am a little concerned at I don't mind an annual hard copy. I mean, that's going to cost money.
Mm-hmm.
The cards themselves, to redo the
postcards.
Yeah, I don't know how many. Part of my problem is that I don't know how many email addresses we have access to. Would that include the voter list, the property tax forms? Is that those two are not going to get at some people in the county. There's no way. I mean, if we are spending money to get to residents, what about the residents that may not have a voter registration
or a tax bill?
Or a tax bill? How is that going to happen?
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that. Really.
And I don't know if that's even.
I get flyers all the time from Montague School District. It says resident. Where do those come from? They come from the post office, or where do they come from?
Probably off of addresses through like equalization or a mailing list.
I know the clerk's office can print labels off in any number of ways. We know the people that voted in the last general election, the people, any number of ways. Excuse me, because they've done that for me when I sent out campaign postcards. But you're strictly reaching the people that voted in the last election.
Yeah, I think we'd get a broader scope of people through equalization. I think tax bill, yeah.
Yeah, and even emails, where we don't have really access to anything. I mean, the voter registration is not going to provide that. If we're going to do a quarterly email newsletter, how is that going to get to everyone?
That's why that postcard, that's where the effort comes in that you're talking about. That's why, when they get that postcard, they got to take out their phone or to go in the computer and type in the URL to actually do that. And then that's how we get their email address. Yes, Ms. Coons.
Within the last couple years, they've actually started collecting email addresses through the Secretary of State's office, and so we do have some, not a lot. But anytime we do a mass mailing using people registered in the county to vote, we get hundreds back. Hundreds.
That say
there's
not
nobody there.
Right.
They're vacant. It's not a good address. Those people don't live there. So your return rate would probably be pretty high.
Sure. Through equalization, would it be as? I think you should just say resident. Not even, the person's name. Just say resident. Just like Commissioner Walker's saying. And
what you're going to find out with equalization is there is a good portion of our population that does not reside here all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of their mailing addresses, actually many of them, are out of our county. So, you could send them to those people.
So how would they?
A lot of through the postal systems.
Yeah, Mr. Pierce.
Yeah, with like the mailing I had done a few weeks ago, When I went to Marriott Pixel, she can pick out every single postal route. And you can take those maps on US Postal Direct and compile those, and then it's to the box holder or it's to that address. So there's no names involved, there's no tax bill, there's no equalization, there's nothing other than what that postal driver delivers in your mailbox.
Okay.
And that would be the broadest, easiest, and then it could be, and the QR code works pretty good. I put one on mine, so you can get in and do that QR code, and then you could get the specifics if people are that technically advanced.
Right.
So you've got to dumb it down to what people can absorb immediately, and then improve upon that technology. But the QR code is pretty good. But the URL is, you know, to visit oceanacounty.com, and perhaps there would be a place to comment or to join or to add your name to that list.
Yeah, we should have just a regular one, which I think we already do, don't we, on the county website? If we don't, we should. That just says, you know, type in your email address, your name, and yeah. Mr. Hardy, did you have?
Yeah, I was going to say, Phil, maybe you want to put together a little committee. I hate to force into something, but and maybe have some outside of the board members, just to get some kind of ideas from some different people on how to do that. You know, mailings, if you start doing mailings, you're probably to all the residents of Oceana County, you're several $1,000s per mailing. But if you had a group that maybe could discuss like where, you know, what's available through equalization, what's available through clerk's office, what email addresses they have, that type of stuff, and maybe formulate a little better plan to attack it. I mean, there's ways of advertising that too in the local media. You know, paper, Oceana Press, different ways to get people that, hey, I'd like to sign up for that, and request information from them that way. Certainly emailing something is relatively inexpensive.
Right, but then we don't have the email addresses yet, right?
Correct. But given some, but if we could get people to submit additional stuff, but maybe, because I think it's a great idea. I just don't know the best vehicle or vehicles to get to that point.
Well, here's what I was thinking. Have Ms. Biard's office look into costs, how much it would cost, you know, getting the addresses, so whether it's through post office or whatever, and then come to us at our budget meeting in September with the number and how much the postcards would cost, how much the newsletter is going to cost, because we got to add that to the budget too, you know, with the constant contact or whatever the subscription, or if we're going to, however that's going to work, and then have an amount there at that meeting to add. Is that, I mean, we'll go ahead, Mr. Christians.
I like the concept very much. It sounded like you were, and I like the idea of taking a particular commissioner and making that focal point of just a small caption of it, but just doing it once, and then you could list the other four commissioners, and then the next quarter focus on another commissioner, just maybe a brief background of what you're involved with or some of the committee work that you do, but maybe also to make the written copy available. I go to a lot of township meetings, I go to the village meeting, and if we had maybe 10 copies of that setting out, I think that those interested people would be willing would pick them up. Also, I agree to direct people to the website so that we can avoid as much printed material as possible, but maybe as a kickoff program, a good way to start. Thank you.
So I guess I'm asking for, is there overall support for having a newsletter, number one, and then mailing little postcards, a way to somehow get a way to collect email addresses, and putting a little money into doing it, because we're going to have to get it to people. Are we overall supportive of kind of those two the details can be worked out yet, but
sure. I think conceptually, yeah.
Okay. What do you think, Ms. Mayette?
Well, as I'm not going to be on the commission next year,
your voice still matters now.
I'll state my desires now, I really hope that as opposed to the mail out to get the information would probably go to every post office box and mailbox in the county. But the second part is the annual physical newsletter, which is going to be expensive to mail out, but I would not like to see those who have not signed up or who haven't known about it, can't sign up, don't have email or whatever, to be left out. I would like it to go to every household if possible, that we know of. Just so they know what went on and what's being looked forward to in the next year.
Agreed. Okay, Mr. Walker.
Mr. Morris, as we move as we move forward with this, I think one thing that we should consider doing is having a segment in that newsletter on how people can get involved with the county government. You know, the different committees we have, the different boards we have. You know, I don't think that a lot of people realize how vast county government actually is. And there may be one of those boards or committees that they have an interest in getting involved. And we could show them where to find those on the county website and how to actually get involved.
Yep, agreed. Mr. Erickson, you approve of the overall concept of the two?
I do believe it is good to engage, as many people as possible so that they don't feel as though they've been left out or don't have a voice. And, the mechanics of how to get it out there, like Craig had said, that postal direct in my mind, that could be as much as $20,000 to do something like that. That's I was just going to look and see, but with every postal route, that gets it in their hand. It's physical. You can set it on the counter. You can save it for later. That's kind of important in sales to have that carry along. But I do believe it's part of our strategic planning goals that need to be met, is to engage more people in the decision-making process.
Okay. Mr. Christians.
Yep, I think you're off and running in the right direction. Maybe a subcommittee is the answer, as Craig recommended. And I agree, we need to establish more communication. I go back to your first entry words where you talked about people don't realize the job that we do and as county government performs, and in all the responsibilities that kind of lie on our shoulders as a board. So I think it's a step definitely in the right direction.
Yeah, the initial step I see, it's going to be some cost investment, right? But then after that we have the email addresses, and then it's free. Really not totally free. We have to write the newsletter, but from there, it won't be a huge cost. Ms. Biard, what's your thoughts of this conversation?
Oh, I think it's a great idea. I do have some examples of other counties' newsletters so that we can take some ideas from there as well. Bob mentioned the committees, getting people involved. You can always post your openings to those committees within the newsletter, and then also put something in there that states that if they're interested in any other committees, that they can go to this site to check it out. And so yeah, I think you're on the right track.
Okay, thank you. All right, time for public comment. Mr. McKean?
Well, having been on there and still on the committee that basically is working with the new web, or the new county website, we certainly are lacking in any ability to have email addresses, no doubt about it. But that's going to be a big feature of the new county website, is to get email addresses and to get the public information that they normally wouldn't see unless they read the newspaper or something like that. But I think you can buy a bulk mailing address list for the county for not all that much money. It does go out, I think, third class, so it is kind of at the end. But if you start looking at like the Hart Public Schools or the Shelby Public Schools, they send out a flyer usually about this time of year. I think we got ours just the other day talking about school. I can't imagine it's all that much money. I mean, maybe 1,000 or 2,000, but I think it's money well invested. We've talked about this in the county parks meeting several times about having some type of a organizational flyer to go out to the community to emphasize what we're doing, to get people to know what we do. And we'd love to have an article, a spot on the county quarterly, whether it be electronic or whatever the case might be. I already have a couple of people I know are good writers on our board, and that would be a great opportunity to highlight some of the things that we're doing and some of the things you find. So that's my 2 cents. It's only a minute, so.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
And we do use postcards. We put these out as the parks, and they basically are, they don't have email addresses on them, but people fill them out. These are both from Hart residents recently that visited Gales Pond, and we're interested in what they think and how things are going out there. But those were, I think we printed 500 of these for $200 or less than that, somewhere in that range. So it's doable.
Okay, the Planning Environmental Services Committee meeting is now adjourned.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Finance and Equalization Committee. Maybe a roll call, please.
Mr. Hardy.
Here.
Mr. Morse.
Here.
Ms. Maya.
Here.
Mr. Erickson.
Here.
Mr. Christian.
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Here.
I would ask for a motion of approval of the meeting minutes from August 11th.
I'll make that motion. Morse.
I will support Christians.
Motion by Morris, support by Christian. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion carried. Any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I'd ask for a motion to approve the current agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Erickson, support by
Christians.
Christians?
Yes.
All in favor, answer aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Any public comment at this time on agenda items or topic? Hearing none, I'll move on. Tracy, consideration for a motion to revise the board rules to change resolutions to motions, 2022-02.
I have supplied the 3 pages that are affected of the board rules, changing them from resolutions to motions, and those are included in your packet.
Have any questions or comments?
I'll say I like it. Especially when it's my turn today to read off the motion instead of resolution.
No, it does streamline it a little
Yeah.
bit. It accomplishes exactly the same thing, and that we can hold the resolutions for special occasions, special events.
And I like the fact that in the motion is the resolution still with the background.
Correct.
And that's what addresses Ms. Matt's concerns, which I agreed with.
Yep.
So yeah, like it.
Should the motion state that is in addition to changing from motion, there's a change in designations of different?
No,
No?
that I was going to touch on that during my administrator's report. On your desk there is a copy of the board rules. Because the board is going from 7 commissioners to 5, I have passed out a proposal that would take effect in January, changing the committees from 6 to 4. So that's what that is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
No problem. And so the ones that we're talking about are specifically in your packet.
Tracy, administrator's review and selected claims for payments and administrator report.
Okay, I have nothing on the claims, those are included in your packet. And as far as the administrator's report, I had provided a copy of that in the packet. I have nothing to add to that specifically, other than we had talked about the board rules, and then there was a meeting with the prosecuting attorney as well as the front of the court to discuss the child support specialist position, which is now held in the prosecutor's office. The person that is holding that position is leaving the county, and so they wanted to meet to discuss moving that position from the prosecutor's office to the front of the court. That's by statute, it was held by the prosecutor's office at one time. It has since changed, and they are suggesting that that position be moved to the front of the court, and we're working through the state contract with that to get that revised, and that will be coming before the board. That's all I have.
Any questions?
Is there any timetable as to when that might take place?
They're just working through it right now, and we just met this week, so
Do we need a ruling, you mean, from like the state of Michigan legislatively, or?
well, there's a contract as it relates to that. There's also funds that we get back from our cost allocation through MGT. So we're working through all of that to see if there may be some cost savings possibly.
Good.
So we're working through that right now.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else? All right, moving on. Any public comment at this time?
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Point of clarification for me, if you don't mind. When we are going from the motions to the resolutions, we in the past have read the total motion before. Are we not going to be doing that anymore?
You mean the resolution?
The resolution?
No.
How does the public know what it says?
That I talked through with Amy, and I don't know if she had passed that on, but I suggested that they place the actual resolution, full form, in the minutes. So you have the motion that spells out that you're adopting this resolution, but the resolution is also included in minutes, so they can read through the entire thing.
When we have our packets that are up here, our agenda that people can pick up, should we have that printed out so people can read it, so they know what we're passing?
Yes,
Yeah,
and they are included in the packets as well.
With a draft on?
Yeah, with draft on them, but have them up here so if people,
Right.
so they know, we know what we're talking about because
Right.
we get it. But if somebody doesn't get the minutes ahead of time, I think they should be up here so people can pick them up.
Absolutely.
So
No, I concur, that should be. Yeah.
I should have brought it up earlier, but I just didn't want
There-
it to slip past.
They are in the agenda that is posted online prior to the meetings.
Correct.
Yes.
So they'll have both, it could be a print copy here or it's on that.
If we have 5 or so of them, or whatever number we decide works up here, that people can,
Yep.
somebody who doesn't see them, or want to take it with them after it's adopted.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I guess then we'll adjourn the Finance and Equalization Committee meeting. And it looks like we have a little bit of time before the regular board meeting.
Should go down to the fair and ride a couple rides, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Go down there and get the leftover caramel corn.
Just come with a towel.
Are we adding the motion to
Yeah, get that caramel corn and.
the
Oh, they take your
stormwater
money right now?
design
Oh, yeah.
criteria presented by the
We can go
Drinking
down and
Commission?
look at the cows, you know, and
If we are, I'll type up the motion.
All right, so we
but
got about.
I just
Wear the
wanted
same
to-
shoes back in here?
50 minutes.
50 minutes.
Hi, George.
really
Hi,
did
Mr.
go over it in great
Uncle
detail.
John,
No, it was in your
Wayne needs to
packet.
talk to you.
I realize that.
Right.
But the public
Come
didn't
across
hear
the
it either.
No, actually, good
Mr.
news.
Morris,
Yes,
you
you
might,
take
if-
care of that front
because the
very
election is
nicely.
coming up, and I know.
And I don't remember
Get it
what
at all
through
the
COVID either.
Oh.
precincts,
We're
right?
going
You know
through
what I mean?
this
There is
with the
go
dad.
through that much.
Swing by.
I mean, I
Get some
don't
people signing up there.
coordinate all that,
Yeah.
but.
Mhm.
No,
It's a
great idea. If
She
it's
called.
allowable.
I don't remember seeing Tracy with
Yeah,
that
you know
many
what?
additional costs for that.
There was something
You know,
to
there
that
on
recently.
Wednesday.
That we were when we adopted that.
Well, would it bring in
$50,000. Correct, but I don't know.
Where did I, yeah, I heard it.
No, that'd be fine though. if
Was
you
it in
get
Shelby
the
Township
savings
that,
money. Okay,
hey Melanie?
91-year-old.
Was there something?
You, during an election, you do have to be very careful about what's on the ballot. And because the commissioners are on the ballot, this is probably not the best
Okay.
election to make that choice.
But I mean, the cards that sound, the card, or, but just to say I'm gonna sign up for this county newsletter?
The county newsletter, as long as it doesn't have any
Right,
commission information.
right, yeah, which it wouldn't, yeah.
And if it were in the precinct and not
Some
on the
changes.
voting
No,
floor,
51 years.
it'd be fine.
Right, yeah, yeah, it would just, yeah, we wanna keep it as vague as possible.
No, thank you.
Hmm,
It doesn't
yeah.
look like it.
Yeah, stop by and see me.
Bob?
Oh, I know. Cool.
I'm reading that, it doesn't look like it.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I can go get my key.
It's pretty much
Yeah.
wording as it looks like.
That's
good idea.
what I take it. And
Leaving,
we've already
can't
got
see much.
those permit fees
No,
established.
Cheater glasses.
Sorry.
Sorry?
I'll come over there.
So I can see.
Phil?
They'll be right for 40 minutes over there.
Hang on one second.
45
What's that now?
minutes before we
What
start.
he said about newsletters, hard copy to take to
Might use
township
a
boards
parking
and stuff. We could do that for the quarterly and leave them there, put some out at the library and
Mhm.
every other place that, allows you to leave stuff, like the bank in Hesperia.
Yeah,
As a-
the only thing is, a hard copy newsletter is made to be hard copy. An email, like a constant contact kind of email newsletter, is made for that.
Oh.
So we're gonna need to then create two different newsletters.
Oh.
One hard copy, and that's just gonna cost
You
more
can
money.
just print them off and staple them.
But you
together.
could, it just isn't gonna look as nice.
Wow.
And the email newsletter is just gonna have, I mean, at least I
Print shop
envision,
at the
just like
jail.
title and a couple sentences
Now
about
you're
it,
thinking
and then you
that.
have to click on it to get more.
How are you, Melanie?
But, I mean, it can give at least
Good,
some,
yeah.
you know,
Keep it
give
busy.
at least some information.
Not even fair week for me.
Yeah, I mean, it really doesn't have to be the way I'm envisioning, you know, be a committee week, so.
It wasn't your intention off you today?
Good, good. How are you? Big time
Michelle
off from a
Clark
busy
gave
real
us
estate season.
the new guidelines.
I thought that's what we were doing there.
We need a we need.
Yeah, we need a
Oh,
resolution. We need a
I can type up the motion, that's not a
Yeah,
problem.
yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Mashed potatoes.
Yeah, I
gravy.
wondered when I looked at that if there was.
Yeah.
I missed that, totally.
Gluten free.
We'll just need to add it to the agenda when we do the agenda.
Sure.
Okay.
Can I punch?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you can.
Number, you can say it.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, I'm keeping, so, and the reason I do that is because I'm keeping the log that, so that if I need to go back and try to find that, the information from the packet, I can do it by number, and it tells me what board meeting we did it in and all
That
that
follows the
stuff.
line, and they take one bite in like a hamburger bun.
I will go take this up.
They can tell in that first bite.
Wow.
Are we
Been able to
no
take some
longer
time off
on
this
Zoom
summer?
right now?
No,
Uh-oh.
we're vacationing, we have a week next week.
Oh, okay. Where are you going? If you don't mind me asking. Oh, cool. What's there?
NASCAR.
Oh, Bristol. I see, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's our, we've got season tickets there, so
Wow.
twice a year we usually go, but I've got 3 other seats now, and it looks like I'm gonna be, my husband and I.
Oh, really?
Serious.
No kids coming this year?
No, my oldest starts my youngest starts college, so he can't go. So he's filling in at work for people, and then my youngest, my oldest just got back from Cabo.
Oh, wow. Wow.
But yeah, we're going.
Someone either way had to get one.
In between, but,
Do you go on the inside then of the
commission.
And I tried to do all.
Is that what your pass is for?
And I can
Not
send it
in,
like
not in Bristol, we've done it.
Okay.
But,
So you camp somewhere else or offsite or
I
onsite,
didn't
just
say that.
away from the
No,
stands?
because I
and
just-
you-
yeah, you can't camp in the middle.
I have stuff in hand.
It's only a half mile.
So,
Yeah.
and the
Drag
last
it
time
down.
they were trying to fill,
Yeah,
and
that's
so
fine.
it can't.
I'm not real familiar.
So, a half a mile of road,
Yeah.
Except for one day
In
I
an
figured
oval.
I got
Yeah,
to
right,
6:30
that's,
or something at
yeah.
night.
What is
and I'm
like,
like,
Michigan
nah.
speak,
Michigan is 2 miles.
oh my goodness, so
It's
that is
big.
short, that is short.
Yeah.
During the
It's
day,
very
it's
big,
kind
yeah,
of this.
yeah, so imagine putting 40 cars on a really, really small track like that.
Yeah.
To move
So,
inland,
uh,
running the diesel third
fuel,
world
yeah.
country.
All that
Yeah.
In some
Yeah.
cases,
So that was
but no,
cost.
there's so many good people out
Yeah, but I
east.
mean, when they-
And the agricultural piece is so huge out east.
yeah, it's very
That
interesting,
we
there's
got
a lot
strong
of
farmers and large
slamming and
tax
banging and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
It's always been like that.
Makes it a little more interesting, doesn't it?
And shut down.
Fires Sunday up in my
I think that's it.
So,
Other than the growth of the farm.
And I'm getting ready to.
But
This
then
was
the
last year,
jobs
they
and
did
farmers,
the-
other farm jobs, you know,
Eight
a lot of
checkout
these
lanes.
They did,
They're
they
getting
put dirt on the
Oh,
track.
I think that's it.
South.
Bill doesn't have.
So this is it for my seat.
Wow.
How close it
Years,
is.
they never added more.
But they bring in people, they bring in dirt, they run all
Yeah, but pretend like it doesn't.
You know,
Not common,
That is a small track.
yeah, it's very.
Wow.
So
And
this-
When I go
it's got
back
a, it's all the way around it.
Yeah.
more,
Okay.
They call this one a straight down.
There's only half a dozen things I can think of now that we
It's
need,
down
but
the mountain,
most of
but
the bad
it's-
stuff's.
The cashiers had a, it was
You're
an
in a bowl.
NCR
Oh.
Sitting in a bowl.
Huh.
Yeah, I think certainly if they could put something together.
Pretty
more
inferior
emails,
stuff.
and
You
it-
know, and it's
you know,
like,
it's like,
wow.
So we've not been
10,000
surprised.
bucks.
Only,
you know, something really been done, but I love
for
That's a lot of money. $3,000, $4,000, whatever you want to mail something here.
At least,
Some of them are,
you know, you're
really
doing
nice,
it.
some of them aren't so nice, right? Some drivers.
At least try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean.
I've heard on, I've read.
Stay in home,
Oh, my
instead
goodness,
of
nerves.
sitting back and
Yeah.
thinking that
You know,
everyone,
it's all right.
you know, I mean, that's not the
Just
case,
when
you know, we're all.
Rivalry thing.
Yeah, so we enjoy it, but my family is really into sports and stuff, so,
Did you before
when
or
I
against?
married my husband, it was like, you better
They
get
don't
into
think
this growing up
it's
because.
costing everyone.
And all this stuff.
Uh-huh.
So I really like,
There's many things we do, there's such good things, there's that small, yeah, it's that small percentage
Both
that's
my kids
allowed.
play basketball, so
Okay.
So I-
You've been in like the stadium for
I
the.
guess instead of down in the big part, the big part, I put it right.
Yeah.
We don't need that.
So I go
Regulate
through, like,
things,
checking
you know,
out the
regulate
the lady
I'm gonna go right at, type on the
And,
wall.
Sounds good, thanks.
Yeah, the committees aren't gonna handle this.
Right.
Yeah, we are.
Unloaded
You got a
that
problem, you go to your
easily,
town
and then I
board
pulled the
meeting,
car
you go to
through,
your village
and I
meeting,
did
you
the
can
system
start
to the
working
That's a
on
sad
problem
thing.
that exists.
So,
Yep.
she said, well, you told us this, I
What
said,
I'm-
okay, fine, I paid for it. I go out to
Yeah,
my
I mean,
car and I
difficult is
thought,
that it's
I
that
wonder if she got
top-down
those
politics.
If I wasn't
cards.
working to the sun
Taking that
So I
national
went back
I
in
didn't
and I
want to
took
sound
it,
pushing it
and
into
I must have gone
this
in, I
room
guess,
and
with the
others
clerk
that-
and said, I
As we
want
kind of look
where
at different
we're
ranges
at
between
and
911 and 311, and like, well, I came here between here and here.
I could have just thrown in the car and drove away, but.
voting machines,
No,
all
I
this stuff.
gotta live with that.
And
It really fosters.
he's growing his business, so he can't, he's not at the point where he can hire a full-time area.
In Ludington?
How did you reach out? What's his business?
He does.
Well, I did this every door to rep.
Did you?
And, you know, I sat down and it's really neat because you can, pick your zip
But I
code
went through a
and
different
then
checkout lane, cause she had
you can
people
pick your
in mind,
route
so
within your
there was
zip
another
code.
guy.
So we
I
can
know,
take
those
those.
realtors do that too.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it's.
So whether it
Yeah.
crossed over or not,
Or you can,
I don't
every
know.
time I send out
And it
postcards
wasn't
or
certainly
something, I
her
can
fault,
follow
I
back too,
missed it,
especially,
you know.
you know, the lakeside areas that are really primarily,
Yeah.
you know, vacation, you know, summer.
Just tell me
you know,
that-
homes and stuff,
So that's, he does, Freezer Jim's ice cream toppings.
Yeah, I noticed you were a
and,
realtor. I thought about that.
Ice cream
Like, I
inclusions.
I did read
Inclusions
realtors
are
are like my future realtors.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, my
House brothers that are mixed into
My
the ice
daughters
cream or
Oh,
cookies.
no
Those are
kidding.
inclusions.
Well, you could have had
They buy them for 5 gallon buckets and say,
I was a mortgage lender.
Oh, was you?
Mix,
Okay.
or
Yeah, I was in the bank,
Sweet cherry mix.
I had that
So,
side, I could've, should've maybe, but.
We do jams, but we
It's
kind of
tougher
cut
for
that
me
back.
to-
These were retail.
Or the no.
Freezer jam.
Those guys do.
I mean, pretty much
We
the whole.
really don't sell those. The cans and that.
Take it, jump right
Used to be
now, on
in
call,
like
you know what I
300
mean,
stores
24/7.
there.
I've done, you know,
They
deals
got one
when
out by an
I'm
investment
on
company
vacation
and
in
said we're gonna
California,
use
you know what I mean,
it.
on my phone, I have to.
Yeah, no.
Write it up and do it.
We
but-
do,
Yeah,
these
so it makes
are,
it nice and convenient.
Quotient, so
But
That
it's
saves a
they'd
ton
be
of
touch
a little
screen.
pain when you wanna get away.
These are ice cream toppings.
My mom always
That
loved
we
the
do.
New York time. My dad
So,
knew preachers
yeah,
were
they-
old,
so
he was on the board of directors, so
Okay.
we kinda had it in there, but, and I was at a different.
So these are like 70 ounce containers.
My mother just loved floor time.
Mhm.
And so she'd be, wait, and
So
have
this
the
is-
time and stir her. And then they often went and showed houses.
We buy the cherries, raspberries,
Yeah.
and blueberries
On
and stuff.
Sunday, or they couldn't get in. They just loved it, because they were both retired and had that.
Yes.
Availability. My hair's
Right.
long, I'll show you another one.
Yeah.
It was, that was a great years.
These are these.
Yeah, my broker, he's actually
No,
a
the show.
state attorney, but his parents both. So ended up getting his